All right. Welcome, everybody, to the February 25th, 2026 City of Edina Planning Commission meeting. How's everyone doing? Good. I saw some thumbs up, smiles. We're feeling good. Well, I say it every time. Really appreciate all of you who are here, whether it's in person or tuning in remotely. It's your participation, your curiosity, your feedback that is vital to this process as we navigate change together here in Edina, specifically regarding the ways in which we like to use our land. So the best way to participate if you aren't here and in advance of the meetings is through our city's engagement website, which is www.bettertogetheredina.org. That is where you can find the latest of any planning and land use related developments, proposals, past proposals. There's a nice little map and a feature. Anything that you or others have shared, we review that on there, and we commit to you that we consider that feedback before we make a decision tonight for approval or denial. And on that note, we have one public hearing tonight, and we have one other item of business we'll get into. For those who'd like to participate in the public hearing, I will give a rundown of that process, so just sit tight once we get closer to that. As for what to expect, I'll just give you a rundown of the agenda. So we will call the meeting to order, followed by roll call. We have the approval of the meeting agenda and the prior meeting's minutes. Then we have community comment period, followed by the one public hearing. And we have no reports and recommendations for tonight. And then we wrap it up with chair, member, and staff comments. And last but not least, adjournment. All right, without further ado, call the meeting to order. And then roll call.
Commissioner Felt.
Here.
Commissioner Bornstein.
Here.
Commissioner Day.
Here.
Commissioner Just.
Here.
Commissioner Ja.
Here.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Elkire.
Here.
Commissioner Nelson.
Here.
Commissioner Padilla.
Here.
Chair Bennett.
Here. Cool. I think this is the first time we've had a fellow commissioner tuning in remotely, so we're trying to make it easier for some of us to participate as well as you to participate, so we'll see how it goes. Thank you, Commissioner Padilla, for tuning in. Thumbs up. Nice. All right, next we have the approval of tonight's agenda. Welcome a motion if there is one.
So moved.
I'll move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 So moved. Next, we have the approval of the prior meeting minutes from January 14th.
Approve the minutes.
All those in favor say aye.
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 So moved. Next, we have community, hold on a sec.
Yeah.
I guess looking at the agenda, yeah, so when do we want to do the first item of business? Because that was just tucked into the approval of the agenda.
It is. I couldn't figure out where else to put it, so
Do we want to do it after
I think we
community?
should do it now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now?
That was the intent, is to do it up at the front of the meeting.
Okay. So the one item of business that we do is the annual election of officers. Most of the time, this is just to simply recommit the various roles besides just the commissioners, myself, and a vice chair, and I think technically a secretary.
Yes.
So just some context for you as for what to expect here. So first and foremost, our position is a volunteer position. We are appointed by the city council. We're a 9-member commission with a variety of backgrounds and experience and passions. The city of Edina allows us to serve a 3-year term, and 3 of those terms if we'd like to. Some other cities do a lot less. Say Hopkins is 2 2-year terms, so the commitment here can be pretty extensive. And so this is the time at which We usually have some overlap of terms ending, so either we have new people joining at the next meeting and some familiar faces that we will no longer see that are finishing up their term. So tonight's one of those. We have Commissioner Bornstein, who is finishing up his first and only term, and he's saying goodbye to the Planning Commission, and we just want to extend a deep amount of gratitude to what you've brought to the commission for the last 3 years. And to put you on the spot, if there's anything you'd like to say, otherwise just a huge thank you.
I was going to wait till chair and member comments, which I usually don't have, so I thought I'd have one tonight, but I guess I won't have one tonight either. No, it's been a privilege. It's been a privilege to serve the city of Edina. I wanted to obviously thank the fellow commissioners, thank the council for appointing me. It's been a really great, interesting, awesome experience, and then the staff for being amazing and prepared, so helpful every single time. I finished my term. I served it out. I didn't think that I could complete another 3 years, and I like to keep my commitment. So instead of starting another one and then stopping halfway through, I thought now at the end of a full term was probably a better time. But yeah, I'll be watching online or from the audience, and maybe showing up to a meeting or two.
Thank you
We'll see.
very much.
Thanks for your
We
comments,
appreciate
too,
it.
Jimmy. But I'm also the secretary.
Yeah.
So for that reason, someone else is going to need to step forward.
So on that note, we have quite a number of selection here tonight. So some context for myself, I've served on the Planning Commission now for 10 years. So you're like, how does that happen? Well, I filled a vacated term about 3 months in. Someone moved. And so I've been the chair for the last 3 years. And while I'd be interested in serving out my remaining 2 years as chair, I found myself lost in thought and thought it'd be a better opportunity to provide a nicer transition where I could step back from the chair role, still participate for the next 2 years, and allow someone else to transition and kind of provide some of that past chair type of insight, especially as we roll into the next decennial comprehensive plan update, which I was here when we started and finished that with Carrie 10 years ago. So it's been a while. So we've talked about this, so it shouldn't be much of a surprise to those who've been tuning in. I've shared my intent to do this, got interest for the next chair as well as a vice chair. I don't know if we talked about a secretary, but last we spoke, there was kind of some agreement and at least interest from Commissioner Elkire to step into the role, and then Commissioner Smith to serve as the vice chair. And I guess I'd allow you guys the opportunity too to speak, because this goes to a vote. So it'd be nice if we have clarity before we go into the vote, if we all feel good about who serves as to what, and if anything's changed. Yeah, if you can start.
Yeah, when we talked about this, was it a year ago? Or whenever
Probably.
we had the current organization where I became vice chair, I think the message that I had was that it's something that I'm really interested in, and I have the time, and I'd be delighted to serve as chair, but of course it's an elected process, so that's all up to the rest of us, but I'm still very much interested in doing it.
Yeah, same with me. Certainly like this kind of work. Love working on projects and trying to create new policy, new ideas for the city. And so still very interested in the vice chair position. Yeah, I'm excited to be here and really sad that you're leaving, honestly. It's just some really good feedback and some good engagement that we've had over the years. So appreciate all your work, Commissioner Bornstein.
That in a positive way. So thanks for your words. I agree with them. And this group in particular, I think, has actually made meaningful progress for the city. So stuff people can feel good about.
Does anyone else want to share any or express any intent to serve in an additional capacity like this, or are we feeling good with a potential nomination for chair? I guess I would then nominate Commissioner Elkire to serve as chair of the Planning Commission.
Second.
And then all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. Congratulations. And we're happy to see you serve. We know you'll do a great job. And the next, I'd nominate Commissioner Smith to serve as vice chair.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved. Congratulations. And then next, I don't think we've discussed it, but since Commissioner Bornstein's rolling out, we do need to fulfill the role of a secretary. And maybe to jump in, you had the same question. What does that mean? It means a very occasional signature.
I think I signed one document or two, maybe. You're qualified.
But we need someone. So anyone that is interested to just, anyone, Bueller?
I can throw my name in as secretary to sign a paper or two every once in a while.
All right, well, I'd like to nominate Commissioner Day as secretary.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so moved. We have a secretary. Well, thank you all for your commitment. As I said, and as most people who are tuning in see, this is quite a commitment. It's bi-monthly meetings throughout the year. A little context to what Commissioner Bornstein said about we made a lot of progress. So what you typically see is one hat we wear, which is where we apply the law. The other hat we wear is making the law. So we're a quasi-judicial body in that regard, and we do that by, we have an annual work plan with a bunch of items that the council, as well as us, as well as you, kind of provide us insight with, like where you'd like to see change. One example is we got an accessory dwelling unit ordinance created and passed in the last couple of years. So we do that, and then every 10 years, this is the body that kind of champions the comprehensive plan update. And the comprehensive plan is all guidance, long-term vision for the city is packed into that. Everything looks to that. Any of the decisions we make where there's discretion involved, we look at the code, and then we also refer to our comprehensive plan and the documents within it to guide us toward the better, brighter future that Edina and its residents want to see. So there's a little context for you, kind of provide that every year as we commit to more terms. And then I'm assuming with this vacated role from Commissioner Bornstein, we will have a new commissioner next meeting? Correct?
Yep.
Okay. All right, well, thank you, everyone. And we'll move along to the next item. Community comment. So similar to the public hearing, this is your opportunity to speak about a matter that's not on the agenda, but you have 3 minutes to do so. And this is for those who are here in person. Just come up to either podium, state your full name, address. If you've signed one of the cards where you don't have to state your address, you can then come up and speak. You'd have 3 minutes to share any insight or concerns about anything you might have. Anyone here for community comment? All right, seeing none, we'll move to our public hearing. So we have one public hearing tonight, and what to expect for this public hearing is the following. So any applicant, a resident such as yourself or a developer or say a school district wants to do something with their land that doesn't quite conform, or it's part of the agreement they have in place where they want to do something different, they have to apply to do that thing, and the applications are different, whether it's a variance, conditional use permit, subdivision, et cetera. City staff will review the application. They will basically perform a full review, consult other departments or commissions if they need to. They'll put this all together into a very informative staff report for us. That staff report kind of gets morphed into this presentation that you'll see. Then we'll kind of exchange with some Q&A, and then we give the opportunity to the applicant to come forward and give their own presentation and have another Q&A. And then we open it to a public hearing where that's your chance as a resident to testify about the matter, and for those who are tuning in remotely to do the same, and I'll provide some info then. And then we bring it back to the Planning Commission to deliberate and make a recommendation for approval or denial. So that's the typical process, in case you're curious. And with that, take it away, Planner Teague.
Okay, thank you, Chair, members of the Planning Commission. So this request has been made by the Edina Public Schools at the Highlands Elementary School. It's for a conditional use permit. So the school is located west of the Grandview District, north of Vernon, off of Doncaster. It's currently zoned R1 single family, or single dwelling unit district. It's surrounded by primarily single family homes all around the site. It's a rather large site for elementary school, 11 acres, guided in our comprehensive plan for public and semi-public use. The specific proposal is to expand the existing parking lot. There's no improvements made to the school itself or expansions in that way. It's just for 54 additional parking spaces. The purpose of the request is for their busier times to get parking off of Doncaster. Elementary schools are a conditionally permitted use. Anytime you expand a parking lot and a conditionally permitted use, you need another conditional use permit. The last conditional use permit that was granted the school was back in 2001 for a small three classroom addition to the school. Really three main issues with this proposal. The conditional use permit is required, but landscaping, lighting, and drainage. So this is the expansion area. School to the east. There are single-family homes to the west. The district was proposing a mixture of deciduous and coniferous trees. The site sits higher than the homes to the west, particularly as the lots move northward. The home here on the corner sits a little bit higher. So there would be some fill placed here in order to create the new parking area. Our city forester reviewed the plan. Given the single-family homes to the west, we had some concerns about screening and how can we effectively screen that. He's recommending that rather than deciduous trees, this entire area should be coniferous trees, likely extended to the north here to provide some screening for the home here to the north. As a condition of approval, they would have to revise that landscape plan subject to the city forester's approval. The school district is agreeable to that condition. Another issue is lighting. They have submitted a lighting plan that demonstrates code compliance. Any lighting would be downcast, and you can see the lumen measurement would be 0 at the lot line, so that would be code compliant. The last issue is grading and drainage. They did submit a plan where some of the drainage here in this west lot, there's an underground system proposed in this location here, and drainage eventually would spill out to the north and west. That's not acceptable to our engineering department, and in their review memo, they're suggesting that this needs to be redone. Rather than this parking area, the drainage should all be directed to the south and east. The applicant's aware of that, they're agreeable to that condition. You'll see a video here later of some of the significant drainage issues that exist today. We don't want to make that any worse. In regards to the conditional use permit criteria, given satisfaction of the issues that I raised, staff believes that the conditional use permit criteria is met. There's no expansion of the school, no increase in traffic. So we believe that all those conditional use permit criteria are met. So with that, staff is recommending approval of the conditional use permit subject to those findings and then those conditions that are also listed in the staff report. The school district doesn't have a formal application. But they would be ready for questions. Maybe they'd like to introduce themselves, and we can all stand for questions then.
Just to clarify, they don't have a formal presentation.
Yes.
Okay. I hope they formally applied. No.
They don't
So-
have a formal presentation, correct?
So I guess then thank you. Thank you, Carrie, for the presentation. That was good. Thank you for clarifying some of the details that they've changed. Those are the kind of things that any resident would appreciate, especially the ones most affected nearby. With that, let's just combine the question and answers like we've done previously. So if this is back to the Planning Commission, if you have any questions for staff or the applicants, now is the time.
Thank you, Director Teague, for the presentation. So I'm very familiar with this parking situation. Actually, my kids go to Highlands, and so I know for a fact when it's time to do a lot of the events, we have to back up on Doncaster all the way even to Highlands Park sometimes, and so I think this makes sense. But I know with that area there was some trees that had some ash borer issues, I think, in the past, and I think a lot of them were removed. How does that impact this new recommendation of putting in the not deciduous trees? I forgot the coniferous trees. Did I say that right? Okay. How does that impact that restoration? Because I know a lot of them were removed during that ash borer situation.
Okay, it's live mic. Good evening, Commission. My name is Sal Bagley. I work at Wold Architects and Engineers. So here with me, I also have our project manager, Aaron, designer, Michaela. This is Cole Larson, one of our civil engineering partners at Bolton and Menk. And then we also have Mert Woodard, the business manager for the school district. So we might take turns to, answering questions. So we did receive the comments about the screening and landscaping. So what we submitted originally was actually the mix that the city code generally requires, a mix of coniferous and deciduous. But I think there's good judgment in the proposal to change to all coniferous, and there's no issue. And then like Planner Teague said, you know, the request to extend it further to the north, I think was well heard by the school district. And so we've actually already submitted a drawing back to the city that it shows that landscaping extended further. The ash borer situation, I don't know if you have any comments on, Cole. But
Yep, so as far as the species that are going in the new area, they're all working with the city forest or the approved tree list. None of them are susceptible to ash borer or emerald ash, Dutch elm disease. Very, very selective in what we're putting in. Being coniferous, we're going with Aves concolor firs, things that are disease resistant that should stand the test time, that are native, locally sourced around here.
does that answer your question?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you so much. That was great. I know there's a spot northwest called Woodlandia. I don't know if you guys ever heard about Woodlandia. So Woodlandia
I
is...
might need some residents to get me caught up on what Woodlandia is.
Okay, these folks know about
I don't know.
Woodlandia. It's a location where the kids go and play outside, and that's one of the reasons why Highlands we selected, because the curriculum is really based a lot on nature and being
Yeah,
outside.
it's a special place.
It's
Yeah.
a very, very special school. And so I know we'll be looking at a drainage plan, and I think what the city engineers were pointing to was not to drain into that north west area, because I think that's where Woodlandia is. So I'm just not sure if that's going to go away if that stayed. And it seems like you guys are proposing to shift the drainage to more the southeast side, right, of the parking lot. Is that accurate?
Yeah, we received that comment as a part of the city report. So I'll let Cole maybe talk about what we're currently working on.
Yep, so we just 2 days ago received that. Originally, the idea was to use the existing outlet structure that was on that north. After we received the city comment, we're still digesting that information. The goal is to move it away from there and get it going south, southeast generally, but we're still working on that.
Yeah, we're still in the design phase for the project. We usually try to go through this process during the design phase so that we can get everything buttoned up before we go out for bid and things like that. So not too late to make changes for sure.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Director Teague, you mentioned a video. Are we going to see a video later?
It'll probably come during the public hearing.
Okay, that's
We'll
fine.
make sure that you see it.
I was just wondering,
at some point.
along the lines of the water, obviously moving something that was going to go northwest to southeast, seems like, things are already draining, must be draining toward the west now, because there's just from the aerial view, it looks like there's not a lot of grass growing there. So I'm wondering a little bit about, so there'd be some significant cost in redirecting that water and putting, however we're going to deal with it. My question is more about this time of year in the winter, where does the snow get stacked and things like that? Because if you just push it over the curb, then it's going to run into that same issue.
Sure, I think it might make sense for Cole to just describe what the drainage plan in general is, because we do have some underground structures planned. And then we did submit a snow storage plan to the planning department, so
Yep.
maybe start with that.
So on site, we're utilizing a UGS structure system. There's already an existing one on site. We're supplementing it in the south parking lot. We're adding new to the western parking lot. Our stormwater will go into there. It holds where it's your rate, your volume controls, everything within the 9-mile watershed district rules and regulations.
Oh, you gotta get closer, I guess.
Sorry, my bad. So it stores in there, and then it moves. The southern ones go to the southeast. The area that we're talking about in that northwest, there was an existing culvert that went out that way. So right now, the current topography takes down to that valley. Tipping the pavement back to go away, we only need like a 2 to 4% slope on that. It's a little bit of earthwork underneath, and we're, like I said before, we're still digesting that and seeing how we can do that in the most effective way possible. For the snow requirements and our snow plan provided, there is some snow storage that's still gonna happen up in that corner. Just as a process of snow removal, moving the snow, say all the way to the north side or the south side of the site, it becomes a feasibility issue with time, and also with the low salt initiative that we've implemented on this plan. We're looking at freeze, refreeze. We don't want cross water as it melts and thaws going over, causing slipping and safety concerns for the children. So we're thoughtfully thinking out these areas and where we can push them, where it's going to drain, not across the whole parking lot, around the outsides and away from walking and slipping hazards.
I was just curious, Commissioner Smith's already a parent of a Highland student. I'm a parent of a kid who's going to be one in 4 years. What type of events are causing the overflow? And how
I might call
frequently
Mert up to do a little fact checking for me. So I believe that there are about 160 parking stalls there today, if you include the overflow lot. And by overflow, I mean they have a paved area that also doubles as like the hard surface play. So like, foursquare, hopscotch, what have you. So for kind of all intents and purposes, there's some spots that are not used for a special or a school day, but special events, we can open that up and use them. But there are, I think, did you say 128 regular staff? Do you want to do those citations?
128 to 130 regular staff, at least 15 regular parent volunteers, and about 30 or so other parents coming to and from the site during the day.
And that's
So
not a special event, right? That's kind of like, that's a Tuesday, right?
Yep.
So and how many students are there right now?
About 580.
So for big events, if everybody has a, parent attending, obviously you can see how that can get out of control pretty quickly. And it's pretty normal that cars are parked down Doncaster. And I do know we got a comment that, maybe expanding parking, people might out of convenience still do that. And that could be true. We really can't make people's choices for them. But I do know it's a regular source of frustration for people who are at the site.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Can I ask, and the principal?
He's Director of Business Services for the school district, so finance manager.
Okay, thank you. So it's primarily for event parking, separate from day-to-day school activities?
I would say it's a combination of both.
Okay.
I think that I've been to the site many times, and there's been 10 or 12 cars on Doncaster. I would say that the total we're proposing should make a difference more for events, but it will matter on a day-to-day basis. If you have conferences or larger special education meetings where you might have 10 or 15 like traveling staff for the district, they're basically at max kind of without even like one special meeting, right? Or one class having parent volunteers or grandparent volunteers. So I think it's pretty frequent. We might call them special events, but schools have a lot of special events.
I've been one of those people parking at Highland Park to get to the school for a meeting, so I can certainly speak to that.
Right, because you've talked about Woodlandia and having some kind of environmental impact issues, because, part of our climate action plan is, to kind of reduce single-use kind of vehicle trips. And so I'm wondering if the school has, and I know you talked about parent choice and people choice, but I wonder if the school system has any manifest or statement or something that you give to parents to, to encourage them to use bikes or buses or other means of transportation.
Do you have anything
I
to?
can speak to
Especially for those times of day when it's really difficult to get in and out.
Absolutely. We are the largest employer in the city, and obviously
Right.
the largest user of resources. We don't have a specific plan for single vehicles, although we do frequently pursue grants and other opportunities for electric vehicles. We have 3 electric school buses on the way for next school year. We're frequently reviewing our roofing systems to see where we can add solar panels. We do have solar arrays on 2 of our buildings. We're looking to expand that in the future. We have, various environmental groups that are always looking to enhance our, and reduce our footprint.
And I think there's a lot of environmental groups that are trying to kind of reduce, single car trips and work on other modes of transportation too. So I'm wondering if there's anything in the school system, because I know it is district-wide, the issues with parking. So I'm wondering if there's any kind of push, especially with high school. I mean, you've got kids in grade school, but if you ever go to the high school, the drop-off and pickup is scarier than anything I've ever done. So I'm wondering, because you also, the low salt initiative and stuff because driving in a single family or a single occupancy vehicle isn't necessarily great for the environment. I think there's other ways. So I'm wondering if the school system has any kind of at the beginning of the school year, please consider, being in our buses or, bikes, or even with this, if there is a way for bicyclists to get in and out during the morning and afternoon pickoff that was separate from cars, that would make it easier for people to do. Because I know this, sorry, I'm probably putting you on the spot, but I know this school is very popular and people love going there, and there's only one road in and out. It's very unique. It's much different than any of the other schools in the school system. So I think in this one in particular, kind of guiding people or asking them to consider other ways of getting there would be a great thing.
Yeah, I would say we're certainly in favor of, reducing our carbon footprint, but again, we can't make those choices for families, and we need to provide that amenity for those visiting the site for business or other purposes.
Yeah, I think that the district is not alone in experiencing, it's interesting to think about what car culture looked like when the school was first built and how much that has increased in our society, and that's not an Edina-specific topic, but there's been a marked increase in desire for parents to do the picking up and dropping off, or other family members or siblings or what have you, since the pandemic. So I would say since, 2021, it's been challenging. Transportation is available, carpooling is available, biking is available, walking is available. But at the end of the day, those are all optional choices. And it's obviously a choice people are not making enough to not have our problem be spilling onto city streets, right? So the district gets complaints about that, right? And so we're really here trying to solve a problem. I wish everybody made different choices, but it's complicated, right? Everybody makes their choices for different reasons, whether because they feel comfortable letting their student bike alone, or it's more convenient for their work, right? It's a myriad of factors.
Yeah, and I get that this is more events. Those events, they're very popular, the fundraising events that happen there. Yeah. I've got a couple more questions, more technical about the heights of lights and timers on lights and stuff like that, so.
Yeah, we can get that from the electrical engineering team real quick here.
Okay, because.
But we did have to prove with a photometric study what the light levels would be and that they would not be spilling off of the property. So that's what the lighting study that Planner Teague showed.
Yeah, and I noticed that, and I also noticed that whole north side, it drops significantly. So some of those houses, especially as they turn the corner, are going to be below those lights. And I know you're talking about extending the screening, but I was wondering if making sure, like way on the north side, all the houses that are 20 feet down, if someone's looking out the rearview window, are they looking up into a light? Or is it really shielded enough so that the light is up high in the shield?
There is shielding, and that's required as a part of city code. Maybe Planner Teague's going to bring something up. It would be false to say that somebody couldn't see the light, though, right? You know, a light source is going to be visible, so I don't want to make it seem like it's not possible. But the direction the light is spilling is controlled. And it's kind of the minimum number of lights to get the lighting levels you really want are all that's included.
Yeah, you need about 2-foot candles to kind of walk down the path,
right.
which isn't very much.
It looks like Carrie's bringing something up.
Thank you. I thought I would bring up those revised plans that were submitted. So this is the landscaping. We haven't had time to look, sizes, that kind of thing, but you can see how they've extended the landscaping up
A little
to
bit on
the north there, so kind of all along.
Can you zoom in a bit more, Carrie?
I think it's about 30% longer than it was before.
And where is that northernmost light on the west side? And there are no lights on the north side, it's just on the west side?
Might have to go to the photometric plan. Carrie, do you have that?
The current light poles are 25 feet tall, so they're reusing all the ones that they're able to, and then the new poles will also be 25 feet to match.
Okay, so that,
Here you can see, I think the light poles are I'll call them the dots or the circles, right? And then the
blue dots.
light that they emit is kind of the nebulous shapes around them, right?
yeah.
Yep. So we try not to overdo it and try to have very little overlap, right? If you place them too close, then you're overlighting the kind of the Venn diagram area betweens.
Yeah.
Try to get by with as few as possible.
I also have that snow storage plan, if you want to see that.
Excuse me.
The blue area is representing where the snow would be stored.
Yeah, so I think what Cole was saying when he was up here, so this is a good visual for people to see. Obviously, trying to get snow to other parts of the site requires a lot more driving, right? So a lot of people time and vehicle time to physically up and move it. So there is, I think, a practical effect to having, needing some snow to go to the north there.
Where is you mentioned a drain that's catching that water and pulling it back to the other side. Where is that located on this roughly?
So there is a drain that's kind of at the northern part of the expanded parking lot. And if everything could be shown on one drawing, it would be easier, but they're all on different drawings. On the utility drawing, thank you, Planner Teague. So you can see there's kind of a dash line that has like ends to it. So that is the outlet location that we received comments back from city engineering that would not be approved. So that's what we have to get going in a southern to southeasterly direction.
You're pulling the water back in a pipe and putting it into a structured system is what I'm understanding.
Correct. There will be an
right?
underground stormwater system underneath the parking lot, yep.
In that general area? I mean,
It'll be under the parking lot itself.
Under the parking that's being
Correct.
expanded, not over in the southeast.
It will be, is it entirely under the new?
It is
Entirely under the new.
Okay.
The underground stormwater system will be under the expanded part of the parking lot. Yep, there already is one to the south, but that is already full based on watershed requirements, so we cannot add any more to it.
No.
Sorry, I
Otherwise,
shouldn't
it
have.
turns to pure and utter chaos. No offense. I understand.
One more question on the lights.
Yeah.
Are they on timers or are they on 24 hours?
I believe they have the ability to be on timers. Yep.
That'd be
So usually
great.
power down at a certain time and then can go totally off.
Thank you.
I don't know what the district schedule is right now for the current lights, so that I would need to ask. Probably Rod, who's not here, the facilities director. But yeah, that's one of the capabilities of that kind of LED light. Yep.
That'd be good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah, Commissioner Elgar.
Is there a fence between the edge of the parking lot, the proposed new parking lot, and the homes to the west?
I don't believe so. I believe it's all landscape screening. Well, not on the district's property. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm not
Right.
supposed to be talking.
So between the western edge of the new part of the parking lot, it's flat with new trees. Is that accurate, or is there some kind of a berm or anything between to the property
There
line?
isn't a berm scheduled today or planned to be today. Actually, and, I think Planner Teague characterized it well. Kind of as you move north, the school property kind of starts to become higher than the homes. So we have included the required screening, and that's what was required to be changed, or asked, I should say, to be changed to all coniferous, planted pretty tightly. So I would say there will be a visual barrier, but there's not like a berm proposed. There's a good grade drop off there, so.
Okay, it looked like the conifers were specified for 8 feet tall. Does that
Cole,
sound
do you
right?
know that? Correct.
Okay. When they're
At
planted. is what I
initial
assume.
plant? Correct.
Right.
Yes, sorry. What species are you, what height are you thinking for that species?
We'll get up to 45 foot tall. Large evergreens that are in there.
And I just wanted to also emphasize, we originally submitted with a mix of deciduous and coniferous, just because that's actually what the department actually specifies initially, but I think it's well stated that in this particular condition, that's not appropriate. So our drawings showed that, happy to change it, no problem.
Thank you.
I guess just quick question to interject. Do we have any photos or maps that kind of highlight existing conditions a little better? I feel like there's a lot of just questions around that might be better handled if we just had a picture or pull up Google Maps and Street View.
I can work on that.
Okay. I think it's helpful. Typically, we have like a pretty good understanding of what the site is. I mean, even on these, just graphically, I think it's important for the residents to understand, like, this isn't tearing down like 50 trees to put a parking lot. It's kind of this sparse, empty turf with a few trees there. Some of them are older, but yeah, as you can see with like Google Maps so if you could pick a couple of those up, Carrie, and then, or if there are photographs too at grade, like from Street View or something, I think it just helps all of us and other residents tuning in understand the existing conditions. Anyone else have any questions? Commissioner Smith?
Yeah, thank you again for really explaining the detail here. Just a couple of questions on two things. One is just if let's just say the construction happens, like at what time of year you're thinking on how much disruption is that going to cause to
Sure.
the school environment?
Planning to have the site construction happen over the course of 2 summers, so this summer 2026 and then also summer 2027. It didn't come up yet, and I actually am surprised it didn't, but this site does serve as a polling place, and so that's something that we really cannot take offline for this August. And so there's a limited amount of time kind of between school letting out in June and it needing to be kind of ready for a lot of people to be there as a polling place. So it was advised to the school district by the construction manager that we do some work this summer, but actually I would say probably a larger portion the following summer 2027, just because we can't really afford to have it torn up and not be an appropriate polling place.
And then the other question was just the feedback. I know this school has been like this for a long time, and I'm pretty sure people were parking on Doncaster for a while as well. Was there anything specific that triggered this event to start working on it now, or you just got around to it at this time? I'm just curious on the timing and what feedback you received that triggered the process.
I don't know if there was any one particular moment. Maybe I'll let Mert speak to it.
No, just persistent feedback that there's not enough parking, particularly on those days where there's special events. We also have a different project on the interior planned, and it just seemed a good time to match those projects together and have the site down for as little as possible.
And I would say interest and appetite from the school board to take the problem on.
Absolutely.
Yep, so there, was it the finance committee of the board had to?
Finance and facilities.
Finance and facilities committee has heard about the problem and was interested in taking it on.
And it has been discussed at that committee for at least the last 18 months.
Got it. Thank you.
Commissioner Padilla, do you have anything?
I wanted to make sure that there's no change to the traffic pattern, buses or drop off or anything like that.
No intended change to traffic pattern. Buses will
And
still
I saw
go.
the plans were dated August, and I was wondering why, if there was a reason that it took so long to come to the commission.
We just generally like to submit when we're as close as possible to being done so that things are accurate. So in close collaboration with the planning department, we started mapping out when the right time to submit was. So you don't want to submit things that are too early and not quite ready. I would also say that we did some important testing that maybe residents or others might have seen. So we've gone out and done soil boring testing. Just to see what the composition of the soil will be. Obviously, we want to make sure to plan our pavement sections to survive that. And then we also did what's called a double ring infiltrometer test to see how water will permeate back into the earth. And so we didn't have those tests back at that time, so it didn't feel appropriate to submit because our answers to the city engineers for many of their questions would have been, we don't know yet. So.
Okay, great. Thank you. Very thorough. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Any other questions?
Just in general, I mean, as you mentioned, it is a very large site for an elementary school, and this is the main parking lot apparently. It seems like it had other locations been explored for adding parking. I mean, you're going up pretty close to this lot line. As I'm looking at Google Earth and whatnot on my phone, I'm seeing that like between the second and third house on Doncaster, on the east side of Doncaster, that parking is the existing parking is pretty visible, and you're going to get another 10, 12 feet, whatever, closer. I'm just wondering what when you looked at the site, were there other spots potentially could hold this
Sure.
extra load of cars?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So we really are trying to keep cars away from where kids are playing during the day. And so that's already kind of happening right now where there's some parking happening over there. So that is a challenging part of the site because we would lose hard surface play area. And if anyone's been to Highlands during recess time, it is well utilized. There are a lot of children out there. Not everybody can be on the swings at the same time. We were respectful of setback requirements. And this probably in the eye of the beholder, but I actually think the screening requirements, they're not met today, right? It's a non-conforming use of parking lot. So I actually think from a visual perception, it's going to be much improved. Obviously, kind of down the hill is not a good candidate, right? We're going to have to build road to get to it. And people really want to get to the front door when they come to an elementary school because that's where we require them to come in from a security perspective. So having them park around the back, for example, doesn't really do anybody any good because then they have to walk around and come to door one. So that just starts to become a practical challenge of you could add parking on I'll call it the back side of the building, but who is it really for at that point, right? So like I said, we were respectful of setback requirements, and I actually think the landscaping is going to be a major improvement, but again, there's opinion based in there.
So with that, you can, in this picture that Director Teague put up, there's, obviously this is where I was looking too, that there's not a lot of grass established there. So is there, as you're going further west with this parking lot, is there going to be, you're not talking about a fence, you're talking about bringing in more fill. Is there going to be, as you go to the north, it looks like you're dropping quite a bit in elevation. So is there going to be any kind of retaining wall or anything on that, or?
Mm.
I'm just gonna let the civil engineer come up and speak into the microphone.
So on that side, there's not going to be a retaining wall. We have a rule where we always try and maintain under a 25% slope for both pedestrian traffic and erosion control. Bringing in the landscaping in that area is going to help establish roots that are going to hold a lot of that soil in place, so we should see less erosion in there, and then it's going to be seeded over the top for all the areas that eventually, as the conifers grow underneath, it becomes needles, like that, but then around there would be seeding in there. But it should show less erosion in the future than it does currently right now, just because it's a highly eroded area with no real vegetation holding it in.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, I got a few. Woo, nice. Okay, so first question, just looking at the actual plan of the parking, can you explain the context of how you landed on the quantity of new parking spots? And are those required, in your opinion? Is there flexibility there to accommodate potentially some other change? I just trying to understand, are you just trying to basically get as much as you possibly can kind of in the confines of that rectangular area? Is that the goal? Or was there a certain number of spots you're trying to hit?
We always had goals during the design process of trying to, get another 30 or 40 stalls, because it seems like on a regular basis that is a challenge. We had some debate back and forth during design of if we were going to do angled stalls again, or if we were going to do 90-degree, which obviously everybody knows changes kind of counts. And then, as soon as you look at setback and landscaping buffer requirements, we kind of knew where you build, max could build to. And then obviously just from like a kind of a fiscal responsibility perspective, building a drive aisle that only has one side of parking, you build that drive aisle whether you get one side of parking or you get two sides of parking. So we did try to have, I would say, efficient pavement design. So I wouldn't say that there's, exactly 54 cars that don't fit on the site every day. I think there's going to be days where this doesn't get the job done still on special event days. But ideally, it's going to solve kind of your average school day.
Okay. And I guess on that note, because that was my question, just in regards, so I have children that go to Highland, so I've been going there for about 6 years now. Very familiar with the site and what happens there. And some of it's not just how the buses show up and the kids get there, which my kids take buses, but there's plenty of times where I show up during the day or for an event, and even during the day, the current lot is full, like during a normal school day, and you're like getting the last spot. I don't know how. It just doesn't seem possible, but that happens a lot. But the pattern of traffic there, and I think this goes to some of the comments that we can't solve here, this is just, as you follow your way out of this neighborhood, it is just challenging of how Tracy crosses Vernon and splits and causes these traffic jams where people are waiting for each other, and then you get bottlenecked back into this site. But even that, like how the buses move through this site, how you have the one-way traffic, do you see issues, like when you guys were looking at whether you do a one-way system through this, because you said angled parking, so that means one-way, or two-way, do you see a potential for introducing more issues with having two-way coming in and out of this new parking area?
Do you have any reaction to that?
It just seems like this parking lot, as you experience it, like a lot of it is you just follow either how people are directing you or you loop. And now we're adding this new area where you can kind of enter, exit each like a different way. And some of that comes with a sacrifice of space. The drive aisle doesn't need to necessarily be as wide if you did all the angled parking. So this just I'm trying to like respect the neighbor. Some of this just seems like it's it's slapped on there to maximize as many spots as possible where like it, and even with the current landscaping plan of what we see, like it, I feel like there ought to be some more buffering that kind of comes around the north side too, but it looks like the parking lot's been pushed as far north before the grade drops down and you really don't have a choice. So my question back to like the quantity of spots is, I mean, if this were more of a sketch plan type of thing, like I would see this and recommend removing like 6 spots off the north of this just to start all this parking farther south to have more landscaping wrap that north side and still provide snow storage and manage some of this drainage issue, because now you're going to have to lift the lot, meaning you're going to have to add more fill, create more slope. I don't know if these things have been discussed by you guys as you've been weighing pros and cons of this current design as we see it.
Yeah, so there's pros and cons to bidirectional traffic versus unidirectional traffic. What it does largely come down to is the school's programming when they're out there. They can do different options where during certain hours it's unidirectional. When you're backing out of angled spots, we tend to see in our traffic studies more backing into other people. With 2 lanes, there's a little more safety cushion in there, but again, it's going to come down to the use on there. It's going to come down to people playing nice, not trying to get that last little spot out there. As far as how big we made it on the north and where the grades are, we always kept that in mind. We didn't want to make something too steep in there. We didn't want to make something that was over the top and just going to erode back down. With our low salt design, we were looking at the snow storage quantities of volumes of snow piled up there, the thaw where it goes down, and it was sized around those. Now, it's not to say that it couldn't be a bigger area for that in there, or 6 less spots. Yeah, there's pros and cons to that as well. But as we were going through this and developing it all, to Sal's point, we were trying to be economical with the space on here. We know we're not solving everything for the big events, but we're trying to maximize the space for use for those everyday activities.
Okay. And then I think that is all I have for you guys. Well, okay, so back to the screening and with the landscaping, was it ever explored to have like 2 rows of landscaping, or are you gonna stagger things like that to provide a more concealed look?
So over time, when these things grow to full mature size, they will eventually be cone to cone as the growth pattern goes up. If we start staggering in there with the size of species to get the height and the full widths on there, they'll start choking themselves out. You'll start getting mold and different scales that affect the shoot bore on the conifers specifically. So those are all taken. We always try and plant for the future, not just filling the space with as many of these little ones right now, and then they choke out and they're healthy. The health of the plant over the long term doesn't survive. We are going with larger species being planted at the initial onset. Those usually take 2 to 3 years to kind of catch up to a younger plant that's planted in that same area with root health stability and the overall adaptation to the soils. So having a little more space going the larger size is going to lead to a larger, healthier stand of trees in the future.
I don't know that we've had a discussion about, I was just looking at it, staggering. I think certainly we could continue to talk about that. Mm-hmm. Or, as you already mentioned, if it wanted to wrap around a little bit to the north or something.
Yeah, I mean,
the requirement is around kind of property line, right? But
yeah, and I say this out of experience from being up here and seeing what has been done and what's been proposed previously, keeping in mind of like being a good neighbor, like schools are, as well as the neighbors to schools. I mean, we've seen proposals where, more of a setback is protected, even though it didn't have to be, and having, 2 rows of plantings just to provide just more screening, more protection, just more buffer of space between uses, especially if people are pulling in here and it's the morning or evening, you're gonna just have headlights blasting into these people's houses, so that's half the winter. I mean, that's like half the school year is, drop off and pick up is it's dark out. And so that's a lot of headlights. So like, I'm just keeping in mind, like there's headlights now, but they're at an angle and they're 50 feet, 60 feet back from the property line currently. Just a question. And then as it is proposed, what is the distance between the property lines to the west and the edge of the parking?
23.3 feet, I believe.
Okay.
I might be wrong on the 0.3. It's 23 and some change.
That's right, and I would add that the code requirement is 10 feet, so they
Yep.
exceed the setback requirement.
Yeah, we've just had similar thing, you know, like you have a golf course with a ton of space and then you put parking right up next to the house when you have a whole golf course to park at. So similar here, and to Commissioner Nelson's point, I mean, or just question-wise, like why here? I think I understand that fully. And having dropped off my kids, there are lots of times and experienced the big events where, you know, and you didn't necessarily mention, but a lot of big events do keep that east parking lot protected for food trucks or other things. So you really don't get full use of all of the parking, and you're not going to send people to this back hidden area to park. So I think most neighbors, parents would appreciate more parking on site. But I mean, as just a steward of like our community, I think I personally would be willing to give up a few of these spots to be a better neighbor to these residents most impacted by some of these decisions. I guess one of my last questions is maybe to staff. This seems like an unusual plan at the point where we see it, with a lot of these things not quite figured out from a landscaping perspective as well as drainage. Like, actually, we'll approve something, but we need to assume that the lot's going to flip back, drainage is going to be different. There's like a lot of things not quite vetted here from just like a fundamental perspective that we don't usually see. Usually this is vetted before we see it, so.
Well, it's not uncommon for engineering to require changes to a drainage plan. I mean, they've submitted everything that's required.
Yeah. I guess it's just.
And changes to a landscape plan's not uncommon either.
Maybe it's because it's just a parking feature,
Yeah,
and so that's kind of all it
there's
is.
to
So
pick on.
maybe that's why it's so,
And
I
it's
mean, that is the topic right now, so
Yeah,
to
and
be
this is
making
very,
decisions and having questions with some of these unknowns still is challenging for us, and I'm sure residents, to try to support something they don't necessarily know what it's going to look like fully, so.
I think it was,
it's a code compliant site plan, conditionally permitted. We can put certain conditions to minimize those impacts, like the landscaping and the drainage.
Sure. And then conditional use permits always go before the council too. So
Right.
there might be a chance to, if, say, we recommend a couple conditions or changes, perhaps between now and when is this scheduled for city council?
Is next Tuesday.
Oh, that's pretty tight.
But that's just the public hearing. They don't take action for another 3 weeks.
Okay. So, I mean, that might be just a benefit for people to understand. Sometimes we've seen between public hearings, some things change favorably, because ultimately we're not the one making the binding decision. So I would think it'd be wise to take the feedback, whatever it might be. But I just wanted to kind of understand some of the context. Any other questions for staff or the applicant team? Okay, thank you guys. Stay tuned, and this is a public hearing, so like I mentioned, this is the opportunity for those residents who would like to testify about this matter, and there's 2 ways to do so, whether you're in person or you're tuning in remotely. So I will get all the info out there for those who might want to tune in remotely, and as we wait for those people to join the virtual queue, we will let some people testify in person. So first, if you are tuning in and you'd like to participate, please call the following number. All the info should be on the screen. 312-535-8110. Enter access code 2868-715-8121. enter password 5454. Press *3 on your keypad to get in the queue to indicate your interest in speaking. And since there's about a 1-minute lag, we'll let that kind of play out, and it seems like we have people who are here in person that'd like to testify. So for both parties testifying, you have 3 minutes to do so. You come up, state your full name. If you haven't filled out the card, then state your address also. You have 3 minutes to go when the light turns green. When it turns red, your time's up. We'll ask you to wrap up your comments, and then we'll proceed with whoever else would like to testify. So please come forward, and thank you.
Introduce myself or wait for that first? Pardon?
I guess
okay.
you're good. You're
Yeah,
good.
all right.
Red light or...
Thank you. So, yeah, hi, Joe Corbett, 5501 Doncaster. We've been residents of the, should I wait till the green? Okay. We have been residents of the area since, well, actually born and raised in Edina, actually went to Highlands Elementary in 1981. I don't remember any parking problems back then, but I wasn't driving at the time, to be fair. You know, it's been a wonderful community and school for us. We feel like it's been a solid relationship between us and the school district. There have been many examples of, you know, for example, tree pruning where trees were on the school lot, but it affected our property, and I worked with the previous principal and groundskeepers and so on and so forth to, you know, get permission for tree clearing and things like that, and it was always positive. Like, of course, we'd love to have you, you know, pay for something that the school would rather not, which is always understandable. The biggest question I have for, well, maybe two big questions I have here are, one, this feels like a kind of a solution looking for a problem, because I looked at ratios of parking in other areas, and it's worth noting that it sounds like there didn't need to be a permit pulled, but in 2015 there were 25 spots added. So Highlands now has 171 spots. The proposal is to go up to 225. Countryside, by comparison, has 110 spots. Countryside also has 629 students, and Highlands has 554 students. Percentage-wise, that's a parking percentage difference of proposed 41% for Highlands and leaving Countryside at 17%. So I'm concerned that we'd be opening Pandora's box here, that if you approve that for Highlands, it spreads to the other neighborhoods. I wish I had cleaner notes here and had started a timer for myself. Another thing, snow clearing. I'm concerned that the drainage plan, things shift over time, right? And when somebody's clearing snow at 3 in the morning, there might be an instruction manual on where you're supposed to put that, but at 3 in the morning when you're making $20 an hour and you're in a hurry to get to the next site, you're not really thinking about that. And there's some serious drainage concerns you'll hear about from my neighbors. Last point, we've seen this for, you know, over the course of the 13 years we've been in the neighborhood. The true parking problem is maybe 4 to 6 times per year of where you really have it out into the street. The rest of the time, and I have tons of pictures I'm happy to share, we just don't see that. In fact, we see empty spots. And for what it's worth, we were in support of the expansion back in 2015. That made sense. It was subtle, but this is very dramatic. We're going from 80 feet setback to 10 feet. Thank you.
My name is Tara Corbett. I'm married to Joe, so 5501 Doncaster. We're right next to the driveway. I have a video that'll be played by a neighbor of mine who can't attend today. We're at the top of the hill right next to the driveway. She's at the bottom of the hill. So she has a river that goes through her lot on a regular basis. This is not an exceptional rain. This is a normal rain that she's experienced and she filmed. You can see on the video. And she did submit that via email, so you can access that at any point. I'll echo Joe we had 3 children go through Highlands. Our youngest is at Southview now. I work out of my home office. I have for over 10 years. I look at the Highlands and I understand, Mr. Smith and Mr. Hennett, that you have children, and Mr. Bornstein that attend Highlands. I live at Highlands. I see the parking, I see the people. The people come in and out for about 10 minutes on either side of the day, at the beginning of the school day and at the end of the school day. There are at least a dozen parking places, and I'm not talking about the south parking lot, I'm talking about the main parking street. And the north parking lot is for staff, the south parking lot is for the children to play at recess. The main parking lot has at least a dozen spaces open every single day. Yes, there are exceptions. The carnival used to be on Fridays, which was lovely because there was a lot more attendance. Now it moved to Saturdays, so a lot of the children do not attend. I think that was a mistake made by the school. We have a new principal. The old principal was very much a fan of the green environment. He rode his bike to school for decades. He pushed that agenda with the children. They rode their bikes, they walked to school. I now see no children walking to school. They do not have crossing guards anymore at the school. I don't know what's happening at the school, but I think it is a significant change in culture. And this move to add more cars to address the 10 minutes of people coming in and going out at the end of the day is not going to address that need. Those people are not interested in parking. They're interested in driving in, dropping off their kids, and leaving. They're not going to park. So I don't know what this is going to address. And this is Andrea Albertson Raimondi's video that's been shared.
Thank you. Anybody else who's here in attendance that'd like to speak? Yeah.
Doing. I'm Mark Overend. I live at 5421 Doncaster. Honestly, I wasn't planning on speaking, but I came in here just to hear what solution or issue you're trying to solve, and it sounds like the issue is a traffic issue. It's not a parking issue. So by putting more cars in there, you're actually making the issue worse. And just like you said, I mean, the cars aren't going to be able to flow in that parking lot. Right now, there's actually a serious grade in our backyard, and we put a fence in, we put shrubs and trees, and the lights still come into our house. It's dramatic, especially in the winter. And keep in mind, that's with a snowbank. They plow all the snow, they create a wall, and the lights still come through. So by bringing these cars that much closer, and we all know cars today, the beams just get brighter and brighter. I mean, we have to pull the shades down now. It's going to be out of control. So that's a major issue, I believe. Besides that, I would say, yeah, drainage-wise, we all have serious drainage problems on that side of the school. So I don't see how that's going to make it any better. And I just think overall, you need to look at how the traffic flows in and out of there. And by creating more spots, it's going to be a complete nightmare. So that's all I got. But thank you.
Thank you.
Members of the Commission, Chair, my name is George Watson. I live at 5417 Doncaster Way. I'm at the low spot on the north end. And I understand from the engineer that they're going to be putting in a slope of 4-to-1, essentially, a 25% slope. Now, if that's from the back of the curb, I'm not going to believe that that's going to work, number one. Number two, if you're going to be landscaping that, how far down that slope are you going to put those plants? So how large do they have to be to have any effect whatsoever? If you're plowing the snow into that area, are those plants going to be there in the spring? I sincerely doubt it. That being said, I too agree that really the issue isn't parking as much for daily use and events as it is just simply something that the school district thinks they need and they're going to ram into this site. Now, I had suggested that you go with an angled 30-degree parking single bay with a drive lane behind it. One of the things that you do that way is you eliminate the headlight issue for all the neighbors along that side. Now, granted, you don't have as many spaces. You might have 20, 25 spaces. I didn't count them, I don't know. But you can make up those spaces in the south lot. And I'm not suggesting that people extend the lot as much as they extend the play area, and then put staff parking on the western end where they can control the access. I was out there today, I saw 17 spaces open at 11:07 a.m. Now that included 4 handicap and 13 standard spaces. So I'm not sure that there's really the need for that many spaces. The other thing I saw that I thought was quite interesting was one of the staff members jumped in a car that was parked in that south lot, backed out of the parking space, pressed the little button, the gate went up, and they left. That tells me that you could control that. You could put staff in that parking lot. You could extend that parking lot to the east and make that additional play area. So you're not out space for play. You would gain some space for parking. So with that, I'll turn it back to you folks.
Hi there, my name is Jeff Schuster. I live at 5413 Doncaster. You're basically going down the street, except for Andrea, who shared the video. She's the house next to mine, right? So that river runs in between my house and hers. My concerns are really twofold, and they're really due to 2 different factors. One is drainage, as you've seen. We already have drainage issues. Water comes in out of this beat-up concrete drain pipe that runs down right into my backyard. I've had issues. I've had leakage in the basement. I've had flooding in the backyard during both heavy rain and snow melt. In one case a number of years ago, the ground got so saturated, a huge tree that was on school property fell over, knocked out the power line, and took out the power. They had to come multiple times to get the pole back up straight, and then eventually they replaced it. So one is clearly drainage. The other is privacy, more people closer to my home. So you would see if in the drawings, it would be that northwest corner would be pretty close to the corner of my backyard and my bedroom windows. And when the house was built 14 years ago, I'm sure that wasn't planned for. The concerns, I think, come from 2 factors. One is the school is up on a hill, right? So you got to picture it. It looks like the new parking lot would require a lot of filling to be flat, not my area of expertise. And that flat area would be pretty close to the corner of my backyard. So I question, where's the water going to go? I've heard answers. And then what can we do about privacy, right? Because again, that's 20 feet above my backyard and looking down, probably almost on level with my bedroom window. The other thing which was brought up recently is, they took out about 100 ash trees recently and planted some new stuff. That new stuff hasn't really taken hold. I was on the volunteer team that worked on Highlands Woods and actually took some time out of work to actually plant trees and take out buckthorn. But it really hasn't done much, in part because the school has not taken out the ash stumps, and so they've kind of blossomed in that area where the kids play. So with less trees, I've seen more erosion. So not only the water comes down, but now the soil comes down too. So in that river that runs next to Andrea's house, there's a lot of dirt in there as well. Options, I think, I read online, right? You're looking for options. I think, if more parking spaces are needed, which I would question because, again, I think it's a couple times a year where we see cars parked on Doncaster. You also see cars parked on Doncaster pretty extensively from, down in the park, right? Soccer days and whatnot. So it's a pretty common occurrence, not just from the school. But if you need more spots, find a flat spot somewhere else on the property. It's a pretty big property. But those were kind of my ideas. Happy to host anyone who wants to see it. Come stand in my backyard. You can see it all. You can see the old concrete thing. You can see where the cars would be. You can see the ash stumps. You can see it all. So I'm willing to host. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate the invite. Do we have anyone else? Oh, yep.
Hi, yeah. My name is Jen Udemark Overend. I'm at 5421 Doncaster, and I just sort of want to add a little bit to what my neighbors have said. The first thing is I'm at home every day, so I see what's going on. And I know there was reporting saying that there are at least 10 to 12 cars parked on Doncaster every day. I have no recognition of that. Like, I don't see that at all. I walk my dog every day. I don't see cars parked. I mean, when it's pickup and drop off, there's a lot of activity in it. Specifically at pickup, I see cars waiting. That again is for 10 minutes a day. I don't see cars regularly parked out there. Secondly, I was a teacher in Edina. I was an itinerant teacher, a deaf and hard of hearing teacher who traveled to Highlands. I went to lots of elementary schools. I found parking as an itinerant teacher at Highlands regularly. So I just want to say that that wasn't an issue for me. And then lastly, just before I came here tonight, there was a car in the parking lot with the headlights on, and I'm sure they were in their car doing something. They were on their phone or whatever, because that's what people do in their cars now. And the headlights were on for probably 12 minutes, just at my house. So it's not just the coming and going of the headlights. People park and stay in their cars, and those headlights are just directed at my house. And it's hard. That's hard to have. So I just wanted to say that, and I can't think of anything else. But thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. And seeing that's it for those in person, have there been anyone that called in to the queue?
No, nobody has called in to speak, so I believe we are safe to proceed.
We definitely are. It's been way over a minute.
Yeah, it has.
I guess I'd welcome a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 All right, so move. The public hearing's closed. Really appreciate the comments and the participation and being here in person for the residents. Insight is valuable to help us make decisions, and now is the time where we pull it back to the commission to deliberate, to make a recommendation for approval or denial. Again, this goes to the city council, so oftentimes if we have conditions on, say, an approval, oftentimes the city council listens to those and kind of incorporates them into their binding decision. In terms of the pyramid of discretion, the conditional use permit's kind of in the middle. So we don't have a graphic for that, but
Yeah,
it's
middle-
that and subdivisions, right?
Middle toward the top,
Yeah.
it's a permitted use that you can put conditions on to minimize impacts for neighbors.
Correct. So, and then I guess to reiterate what Director Teague mentioned is most of this is in compliance of the code. But we do have a bit more discretion than some of our other choices and a bit less of discretion than others. So we're kind of in this middle spot toward the top. But this is why it's important you've come, and this is important why we do this. Open it to fellow commissioners to discuss, deliberate if there's any other remaining questions for staff or the applicant team. All right, yeah.
I can start off, I guess. Yeah, thank you for being here and all your comments. It really brought home what's going on over there and understand it a little bit better. I guess ultimately the solution might be someday, and this isn't what's before us, so I'm not going to deliberate on this much, but is obviously come off of Vernon and buy a couple of houses and redirect where all that traffic comes into that site. But that's not as the school was built or designed or anything. So again, I'm not going to comment beyond just that. It does seem, however, that with all that water, it's hard to tell where that water is coming from the video, but with all that water flowing, it's either coming from, it's obviously coming downhill. Is it coming from that parking lot or not? My understanding with stormwater compliance measures and whatnot is that you need to be able to maintain the water that falls on the property onto the property within the property. Perhaps you mentioned an old culvert that's on site and water discharging from that. If there's some condition that's grandfathered in, I would suspect with this addition that there would be no longer any grandfathering, and it would all need to be maintained on site. Now, I'm not a civil engineer or a water person. I'm just understanding a little bit about the codes and how things work as far as groundwater, rainwater, and stormwater. So I guess that's my question. It should better, I mean, if it's designed right and works right, it should better that situation. Whereas if that water is coming from the parking lot, which again, it's hard to tell from a video, that it would be better maintained after this addition than it currently is. I guess that's really all I have to say. And the only other aspect is fencing an option to buffer the headlights, at least while these trees continue to grow and do that job for it. That is all I have.
Was there some question in there too, at least to staff, about kind of the requirements for stormwater and managing it on site, whether things change if something was grandfathered in? It's kind of, I don't know if it's a question, kind of seemed like it.
Well, it was more of a comment, but I mean, I suspect that, assuming this all goes through the proper channels of permitting, and I don't know how much the watershed district has to look at this at all. I mean, if there's water way down the way, but it's not close to this, so I don't know that they have any purview on this. But my understanding is that as that water falls and falls onto the lot, that needs to be maintained on the site and can't go off into neighboring properties. I'm just wondering, is that correct, or am I incorrect with that?
I'm not an engineer, but from my understanding, yes, they can't direct additional drainage onto neighboring properties. And that's the reason that our city engineering staff had identified this, that they can't direct any more drainage to that area. That has to go to the south and to the east. And if there was a question on fencing, yes, you could require a fence. It could be, not on the lot line, because it's lower, right up against the parking stalls. It could be like a 4-foot wood fence around that west side that would take care of that headlight issue. Yes, yeah, right next to the parking spaces.
Just no storage. But, yeah.
They would have to take that somewhere else then, yeah.
Me to go?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just turn off my...
Yeah, mine won't go off either.
I think a couple of comments. First, it's a code-compliant project, and I have a really hard time deciding whether the school needs it or doesn't. I mean, from my personal experience, I drive a school bus for the district part-time, so I'm in and out of there quite a lot, and I have not myself observed unusual parking on the roads out to the public streets and along the public streets, but that's a sample of one for me. I guess the point of saying that is I would really encourage, I don't think we got a good sense quantitatively of the scale of the problem we're trying to solve. And I think that would have helped me a lot if the applicant had come in and said, we've got a 40 spot problem, so we're going to add 54. And I didn't hear that, whether it's on a school day or an event issue. I heard there was an issue, but I didn't hear it quantified, so I can't really compare that to the number 54. Secondly, I think there's a missed opportunity. The geometry here is really complicated to try to imagine in your head. I'm trying to put myself in the homeowner's shoes, and it's very hard for me to imagine the grade differences and the angles between the houses and the parking lots and the lights and how the 8-foot trees mitigate that for how many years before they're 12-foot and mitigate it further. whether a berm or a fence or any other thing might make a difference. And we, in this group, we see all the time very impressive drawings from all different perspectives of what things are going to look like when they're built. And I would have really liked to see a model of what it looks like at a neighbor's house. It's not real, it's going to be a computer model of what it would look like and how the elevations stack up and what the 10-foot difference means from there and how the trees help and how that compares to the light standards that are a little bit to the east of the edge of the parking lot. But I can't imagine it. I wish my brain worked that way, but it just doesn't. And I think there's technology that could help us see that and understand what the problem is going to be, and as a mitigation, recommend more or less, or maybe we'll just say, oh, that looks pretty good, I think it's going to be fine. But I think it's a missed opportunity to demonstrate how it's not going to be a problem. And then thirdly, on the drainage, it looks like a problem, and it looks like the city is aware that there needs to be some mitigation, but we didn't see what that mitigation was or have a chance to have a hydrologist tell us that there's this many cubic feet of water coming off in an average storm, and this is how we're going to deal with that many cubic feet of water in the storm. So I mean, I really have a hard time saying that's going to be okay. So this is much more difficult project than I thought it would be coming in here tonight. I just feel like I don't have enough information, even though it's code compliant, and I want the school to have parking if they need parking. It's just really hard for me to represent our residents and say, yeah, it's going to be fine. We got the problems under control.
Yeah, I would echo quite a bit what Commissioner Alkire shared here. You know, a school is a very unique institution because it's also an R1 and it sits within a neighborhood. And the neighborhood and the school really need to align on how they want to coexist together in that space. And what I kind of felt this evening was that residents are saying parking is not an issue, right? There's not a huge issue here. Whereas the development team is saying we need to create more parking. Now, I certainly had to park further away and walk to school, but that's not every day. For the most part, I drive straight up to the school right in front of it and I pick up my kids. So I do get that in some instances, there's going to be a parking shortage for events. But the bottom line is, it just seems to me like there's not a real clear alignment between what the school perceives as a problem and what the residents that live around there perceive as a problem, which initiated this to come forward. And I couldn't tell if, to Commissioner Alkire's point, if those parking spots are a must-do or a nice-to-do. And I was really struggling with figuring out, okay, I get it, there's some cars on the street, but how much cars, how much parking, what are we really short of that would say that we have to fix this? So I think that was a little bit unclear to me. If the applicant had walked in and says, we need these spots because of X and it's causing a problem and here's exactly why, then I'd be like, okay. And if residents say, yeah, that's a problem, now we have a joint problem that we gotta solve for. But it just doesn't seem like it's connecting, like it's not aligned there. That's one. Two, certainly the stormwater situation is a real challenge. And I'm not sure how long that has been an issue. When I first was asking questions about the ash borer, it seems to me the root cause was the ash borer came, destroyed the trees, destroyed the holding of the water and the soil, which then caused the runoff into the neighbors' lots. And those trees haven't been taken root and grown up and been replaced appropriately, and so it's continuing to be a problem. It's really a soil erosion problem because of something that the school wanted to do. Now, I was really sad when it took the trees down, but I got it because it was spreading disease within Woodlandia and the whole part of the school. And Highlands is a school that's designed and has a curriculum around nature, right? And they really want to preserve as much green space. They want to preserve as much canopy as possible. So it was a real blow when that happened. And now we can see the downside effects of having no trees there is causing more erosion, which is probably causing some of that runoff issues that you guys are experiencing. So the faster we could correct that problem, it hopefully would start correcting some of these runoff problems. That being said, it seems like having some kind of water mitigation system that redirects the water away from the northwest corner is always going to be a good idea, because it's going to help prevent water erosion problems, which we don't want to have. With regards to the school board, again, this is kind of, I would have loved to listen in on some of those school board decisions to understand why. And that's why I was asking on the timing. Why now, right? What happened that caused this to be an issue? And it seems like it was, the finance team kind of saw it as being a good timing now. They were doing some other work in the school, so then they figured, hey, let's just try to get to this right now. So what I was hoping to hear was, it's a problem because of X, and it just wasn't clear. It just seemed like I'll just get to it when I get to it. That's why I'm struggling with a must-do versus nice-to-do situation. And then finally, I certainly want to think about, as much as the school and residents could come to an agreement, like what I think might be a good thing to do, and maybe you've already done it, is have some school board meetings. Hey, bring the residents in, the school comes in, everyone talks about it, discuss the issue, get to alignment, and be like, we need to get X spaces. We go back and forth, and you guys come up with a number that everybody feels comfortable with. You talk about the issues, and then that turns out plan, and then we see it. But I think what we're seeing now is misalignment. That's how I feel. And so I wish there was more alignment before showing up, and then that would have made the problem a lot more easy for us to say, yeah, okay, everybody's in agreement here. The school has a mission to accomplish. The residents feel comfortable about it. A no-brainer. But now it's a little bit more difficult. So that's just my thoughts on it.
I concur with all that's been said.
I just also wanted to say, another commissioner said earlier, adding more spots would for sure incentivize more people to drive in a way. And I think that there's a lot of people who live around elementary schools. I know when I was in elementary school, I know a lot of my friends biked or walked, and from what I hear, not a lot of people are doing that anymore. And if we add more parking spots, that would incentivize it even less compared to adding bike racks or something, if more people not to drive.
Okay, I'll try not to belabor a lot of the points already made. Commissioner Elkire stole a lot of my comments already. No, that sounds good. But I had a lot of the 3D rendering and all that kind of stuff, those comments. So I would just say that in the discussion as we're thinking about this, that we make sure that we kind of center ourselves around the right things. A lot of discussion so far around defining the problem quantitatively and saying is this necessary? What's to what scale and whatnot. But do you need it or not? Isn't a part of the condition for a conditional use permit, right? It's not part of the ordinance, and it's not something that we should be deciding on, right? It's not really a factor. The city in a commercial district wouldn't deny a permit or an application for a Starbucks because there's a Caribou right next door, right? Necessary or not, that's not really what should factor in the decision. I do agree I would like to have seen or heard a more detailed explanation around the logic behind the decision. But I don't want to get hung up too much on the do you need it discussion and parking ratios and whatnot. What we should center around is the ordinance conditions, of which there are several. And I would agree so far with the discussion that the information that we've been given makes it a little hard to make some judgment calls on some of these, particularly two. So there's condition 3 is, will the permit or will this use have undue adverse impact on public health, safety, or welfare? We got a little bit of the taste of the drainage issue, and I think the video and from city staff and city engineering, I think that would be an excellent addition to the presentation to city council, like a very detailed, presentation from city staff and city engineering about the drainage problem. How is it going to be remedied? Are we still going to see rivers flowing through residents' backyards, et cetera? So because we don't have that, it makes it hard for me to make it to say yes or no, it doesn't have an adverse impact on public health, safety, or welfare. And then that also kind of feeds into the impeding, so point 4 of the ordinance, is that it will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of other property in the area. So the property and all of our neighbors around there, and impeding their ordinary development and improvement, it's not really encroaching, but I do understand the privacy issue and whatnot. So I think the 3D rendering would help answer some of that a little bit and help us get to the heart of that. So we're lacking a little bit of information to help make us this judgment call, at least in my mind. So that's kind of where I'm at with this discussion so far. Talk to us after the meeting.
Send an email to council.
Yeah, without belaboring the point, I guess this is interesting. It would have been best to have clearer evidence in the record so that we can evaluate the factors that you were talking about. I think some of the size, scope of the problem issues go to the adverse impact factors. About something more than anecdotal about is the capacity of the lot being exceeded ever? It sounds like it. If so, by how much approximately? Just like 10 or 50 or 100? I mean, and then how frequently? And I think if we had a clearer sense of how much the overflow, I'm calling it overflow, spilling out in the neighborhood is in terms of cars, how often it happens, we could then, I think, better assess whether the solution is tailored to the problem or the proposal is tailored to the problem, and whether it could be more tailored to the problem by having 1 row of additional parking stalls instead of 2, or some of the things we talked about. It could better evaluate that adverse impact factor. It is a little bit confusing that this group kind of anecdotally says, frequently we're running out of capacity. The folks who are living there say maybe a couple times a year. It's just anecdotal. I don't know. Although we did have a pizza place that was proposed very close by, and the prospect of sometimes people parking in the neighborhood caused extraordinary concern. So I'm a little bit biased to thinking that maybe it isn't every day. I don't know. But every little pocket of this neighborhood is different. It's all just to say that I'm having a hard time evaluating whether some of the impacts that expanding surface parking will probably have or could cause are reasonable or justified or not, just in light of not having a clear enough sense of the scope and frequency of the problem. And personally, if we did have a clearer sense of this is how frequently it's overfilling and by this approximate amount, I would be inclined to vote in favor of additional parking that would solve that problem. But I don't think that I'm at a place where I feel like I can do it now, because I have some significant doubts about whether 50 or however many it was extra is actually needed to solve the problem without causing some unintended consequences. So that was repetitive a little bit, but that's just kind of how I see it.
I might suggest, since I'm sensing the commission is wanting more information before it makes a decision, I just conferred with the applicant. They would be okay if we were to table this and come back with some of the information that you're looking for. Procedurally, how that would work is we have a public hearing scheduled with the city council, if this is agreeable. But we don't have to hold that. What we would do is have the city council continue the public hearing to a future date and then this, come back with that additional information. You've closed the public hearing, but we could still present the new information and take written comments from the neighbors. So I would just throw that out as a talking point for you.
Yeah, knowing that, Bonnie, if you'd like to still make some comments, as well as Commissioner Felt and myself. And
Sure.
then we might
I'll go
have
ahead
to
if that's
circle
okay.
back if we do go about this, we probably have recommendations of specific things we'd like to see. Okay. So yeah, Commissioner Padilla.
Okay, so I came into this with a couple of assumptions, or my thinking anyway, was this school is very unusual in terms of its traffic patterns, in terms of the fact that it's not on main streets like all the other schools. It's not as easily accessible. And another assumption that I had was that the neighbors would be delighted about this because they would no longer have cars parked in front of their homes. And then a third assumption that I made, or maybe it's not an assumption, I think that it's anecdotally, it's more of an observation, is that as we evolve as a community and we see more parents at school during school hours. And I'm not talking about, the once every other month when there's some kind of event and then the parking necessarily has to spill out in the neighborhood. But just in terms of during the course of the day, I know I'm not at Highlands very often, but I'm at other schools, and it's a big deal when you're coming and you're dropping stuff off, and oftentimes you have lots of stuff with you, which makes a bicycle or anything else, unworkable. And you want to get as close to the school as possible, whether or not you're doing art or helping out or you're an assistant. And for that reason, I thought, oh, well, more parking is a good idea. And I also thought, okay, this is just an extension, it's sort of an extension of a conditional use permit. So, they're not asking for anything kind of new and different. But then that goes to what everybody else has said in terms of, we here usually see lots of math around a request for more parking. So that would be my request if we're going to see this. How did you come up with the number of parking spaces? And the fact that, was there discussion? I mean, none of us asked. Was there discussion with the neighborhood? Because there is clearly, not agreement here. So I would like to see you also go out to the neighborhood and get some kind of either explain yourselves or the drainage mitigation or something like that. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Okay, I'm going to reiterate a lot of this, but I'll try and make it pretty quick. You had mentioned the city can't make any add to any water issues, but I also think obviously there's some alleviation of some existing conditions that needs to be done with this, and we need to understand that a little bit more before we can move forward with this. And I'm going to ditto Bonnie on the talking with the neighbors. I've been in a couple of other situations with the city where I don't think staff and residents and council are all talking together. And I think this is a situation where the schools and the staff and the residents have to talk together. And I know everybody doesn't have a lot of time, but I think we've wasted a lot of time here by a lot of people by not talking together. So I think that needs to happen. The Edina school system does the snow plowing, so I think because the staffs are relatively close, they could probably figure some of that out. So I don't know if the 4-foot fence right at the cars would help or not. I'm sure it doesn't make anything easy, but that could be in the mix of the discussion among all the parties. I live across from 2 schools, and when the events happen in those schools and they spill out on Grimes, I'm always like, oh, it's the time of the play. And it just makes me so happy because I remember when my daughter did that, or when there's the Morningside Women's Club across the street, and I'm like, oh, it's the time for, and it's just a passing of the seasons for me. So I don't mind that. It's just for a day. I have to be a little extra careful going out of my drive, but that's fine. So the event parking doesn't register with me as well. I had heard 173 from the business, 128 staff, 15 volunteer, 30 parents, 178 parking spaces. I think there's a lot of ways you could probably make that happen. I couldn't quite get the count on this one either. So those are my comments.
Thank you. I'll share a few comments of my own. Appreciate all the comments from the commission and the community. I think Commissioner Day brought it home well with focusing on the conditions of the request that at this point at least would be the grounds of like what I can't support currently. It's important to know that. But I do want to offer up maybe a couple specifics to this. I mean, there definitely is a problem, and there's other problems that are nearby that aren't really a part of this request, but could be potentially addressed. And I think even what you see that would actually solve, if drained to the south, solve a lot of the drainage kind of running through that gully as it goes down. But I think if the request was a bit more modest, like the previous ones, or like the neighbor, I think most people would be in favor. I mean, this is just my experience of using this site for the last 6 years straight, you know, with my children going to school there, and pull up Google Maps Street View, like it's full, and it's the middle of a school day. I mean, whether or not like the residents see that, like parents like myself, like I'm going there tomorrow to read a book to my daughter, right? That happens quite a bit more than you would expect, which is unusual. I still find a spot, so that's kind of why, like, I do know there's a problem at times, but is it this big of a problem that then could create other problems next door? Or is it this big of a problem that could prevent problems next door, or kind of be a co-solution? I'm not at the point to support this, although I support adding parking there. So, I mean, I think we could quickly go around if you have anything additional to say, or maybe we just open it up to, are people good with tabling this instead of making a decision tonight? I see most nods of agreement. Bonnie, you similar? I don't think do we need a vote on like continuing something? We do? Okay, so would we do that and then we can make recommendations now, or should we kind of go through
I would include it
recommendations
as
first?
part of your motion.
Okay.
What you'd like to see.
So maybe let's go down the queue and just get an idea of what specifically we would like to be considered or be addressed to provide more information to be able to, I guess, respond confidently in whether these conditions are met for a conditional use permit. We could just go one by one and just, is there anything specific? And then at least the applicant team can take notes.
Sure. Again, it was mentioned a couple times that I don't think we have much say in, do they need the parking? They're asking for the parking, so we're supposed to respond to that. So I'm not going to comment on that. Communication too, I mean, it would have been great had they communicated, but it doesn't sound like much happened. Again, that's not our purview up here. The conditions I would suggest is to ensure a proper stormwater plan be submitted, and that they keep the stormwater that is on site or in the underground. It sounded like they had a plan for that. We just didn't see much of it. Fencing is I'm not sure that fencing should be addressed. Is it wanted? Is it necessary? The fencing I see would do two things with the headlights. but also potentially forcing them to put snow elsewhere could be a benefit. So potentially fencing, if that's something necessary, which would deal with the headlight concerns. And then just the stormwater thing would take care of the erosion along with the trees. So that's really all I have. So I'm talking fencing, potentially, yes, no. Stormwater plan, and I guess fencing takes care of the snow plowing, and then the soil erosion it's really just two things, fencing and stormwater for me.
The only thing I would change would be I'd broaden the fencing question to modeling the neighbor experience, the geometry of the neighboring experience, so we know whether there's enough mitigation, enough light and noise mitigation.
A few things I would add to this is some kind of overflow, average overflow numbers, just what's bleeding out into the neighborhood. What does that number look like? That's one. Two, how often does that occur? So is this like a once or twice a year situation, or is this like a 3 times a month situation? I think that'll give us a sense of the scope of the problem. And then I think some kind of indication that some alignment has occurred, or a meeting with the residents and the school, even if it's just a session where everybody just gets to voice it and someone captures some kind of takeaway, to just show that we have done some kind of engagement. I think normally we would send letters out within a certain radius. I don't know if that happened with this, but if there could be something where the school could say, yeah, we connected with neighbors, we had this meeting on this day, here was somebody's feedback, that would go a long way in just kind of bringing that alignment a little bit closer. So those three things I would say.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with all that. Just a 3D rendering of what this actually looks like from multiple perspectives. I think just to help people picture in their mind's eye a little bit, and then just on the stormwater piece, it just would be just a more. So there is a plan submitted, right? They did submit a plan. I just would like somebody, either whether it be the applicant team or city engineering, to walk through that in more detail. So that's kind of the heart of what I'd like to see.
Yeah, same as everyone else, just more proof of the scope of the problem, and then a showing that this proposed solution is tailored to the demonstrated scope. Whether people meet and talk about it outside, I kind of defer to others about, you can choose how you want to deal with that, but I'm not going to be here to vote on it anyway, so there's nothing else to add, I think, for me.
I just want to add, I don't know how to say it, some sort of plan for addressing our climate action plan, because that's part of our comp plan. One of the lines on this was, this is schools being in residential zones are part of our comp plan. And so I want to see how the climate part of this corresponds with our climate action plan.
Commissioner Padilla.
As I mentioned earlier, just reiterate, some conversation with the residents around there and a calculation as to the number of spots. So that's it for me.
I guess for me, I think just in general, that conversation, if it's just like an open house type of thing, that also includes parents. Part of this problem, as we heard, the root of it is from complaints from parents, not necessarily neighbors. It's the users of the site that demonstrate this problem. I've experienced it. And I would be prepared also if the scope of this is less, which I think it is, from like an intensity, this just feels like too intense of a solution for like what I've experienced there and what makes sense to be a good neighbor. I'd say be prepared with a potential solution that's more modest. And I think one of the good ideas suggested was a one-way diagonal parking heading north just from a circulations perspective, like if there's only 20 to 30 spots needed, have a solution reflecting that. And I think a good one is just the diagonal parking toward the school and facing north. So then when you circulate, you're doing right-hand turns and you're not crossing traffic patterns. So just be prepared if you find out that from the need of this, if the school district's willing to meet in the middle, as you can probably hear, be prepared with what that could look like. And I think, I mean, when you look at this site, I mean, there is a current problem with drainage as that gully slopes. So like, there is an opportunity to solve more than just what's going on the site. And I think to demonstrate that better just shows some good due diligence that we really expect out of any applicant. A lot of times someone demonstrates they've talked to the neighbors, they're not going to make the impact. And it seems here that what was proposed was like adding quite a bit of impact to the neighbors. So it just, all right, I think the point is belabored. Good? I don't feel good about that. So I guess we need to make a recommendation to continue this. How do we word this? I don't think I've ever done this.
Yeah, just a motion to table the request, depending on, I'll work with the applicant on dates. It would either be March 11th or
We
the
have
March
to be
25th.
specific on a date, or we can just table the request?
Because you've closed the public hearing,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have to be specific. I've got some contact with some of the residents. I'll make sure that you're all aware of when that next meeting is. I can work that out with some of you that I do have contacts with, and you can always contact me too.
And there is a sign posted at the entrance to the school, yeah, in your front yard. So that usually is the visual indicator of any projects that are, there's a number, there's, I think, a website, right, on it?
It's the planning phone number, yeah.
Okay, ooh, goes right to you. So this is just to table it indefinitely and then take just the general feedback that we said. I mean, we don't need to add that to this table, as it's just been included into.
You could even table it to the next meeting, and if we're not ready to go for the next meeting, we have it on the agenda and we continue it again. That might be the safe way to do it.
Well, then it just sets people
I mean,
up
I'm
to show
still
up.
going to be in contact with
Okay.
yeah.
Sorry, what were you saying?
I just want to make sure that you know that there's an email that goes to all of the city council, and they definitely listen to your concerns, and they will get back to you. So you just, it's city council, Edina City Council.org.
I don't know it off the top of my head, but
It's right on the website, and it goes to the city manager and all 4 city council people.
Again, I haven't done this, so do we just make this non-specific? What's best for all parties, especially the applicant team, because they are proposing this? There's probably budgets and decisions that need to be made to do this stuff in the summer, you know. What would be best?
March
To try
11th.
to push till the next meeting? Do you think you could get some of this stuff by then, or is it 2 meetings from now, like a month?
Are you okay if I come up?
Sure.
yeah.
I was just going to say, I'm hearing a request, I'm not from the school district for the 19, but I'm hearing a request for communication with the neighbors. And I think to not try to rush that through, I'd actually rather you not put a deadline on it so that we could get that done well and to not like force it to happen. People couldn't be there. So instead of like saying the next meeting for sure, I would rather it be indefinite and then we could coordinate like a date that works for people, right? So that would be, I think, the request of the school district, but obviously it's up to the commission.
May I try it?
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
So would it be acceptable? Oh,
She's talking, why can't I talk? I live in the city.
It's part of the applicant team. Like it's like I could go through like the very formal, I could go through the very formal specifics of the process, but okay.
She's not presenting. She is trying to figure out a way so that they can talk to the residents and then find the time to come back to us. That's what she's trying to do.
I was asked.
Yes. And so we did have public comment, and you can, I email city council once a week. Okay.
So,
And I would add too, that there will be a public hearing at the city council, so that's another opportunity to speak.
are we good tabling this?
Yeah, I'd make a motion to table this to a future planning commission meeting.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so moved. This request is being tabled to a future date. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for the presentation. Oh, I got cut off. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I guess my green light turned red. Okay, so that was it for public hearings tonight, and we have no reports and recommendations, so we move to chair and member comments, and then staff comments. I know Commissioner Smith attended something recently. You shared some communication about it. I didn't know if you wanted to share tonight about that too?
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you. In this chair and member comment section here, I just wanted to bring up 2 points. So I think it was last Thursday or Friday, last Friday, I believe, I attended what's called the Municipal Legislative Council meeting. And this was a meeting that occurs, this was the first time for me joining it. I think it happens every quarter or so, where they bring together city leaders across the region. So you think all the way from, Minnetonka to Lakeville, Woodbury, all these different areas. And mayors show up, city council folks show up, legislators who represent those districts show up. And it's a meeting where they talk about what's the legislative priorities for the year, essentially. And so I had the pleasure of attending. Mayor Hovland was the host for that meeting, and I sat at a table with our city manager, Scott Neal, and our city representatives as well. And it was just a really great collegial environment. And so the topic of conversation at that time was about housing, and that this region is lacking affordable housing across the board. I think we're short over 100,000 homes for the state of Minnesota. And so we had a really great panel, a cross-sectional panel of Met Council representatives, city planning representatives, and also developers. And they had some really great takeaways. I think I sent an email out to this team. But the main takeaway I wanted to share with this group is that we have our comprehensive plan update coming up, and that's recommended that we use that opportunity in that plan to help address more housing development and also housing affordability. And so as we go into the comp plan process, here's where I think we could try to make decisions that would make building affordable houses much more easier for the city. So really great panel, so much in-depth conversation. They covered housing was like the main issue. A sub-issue that definitely came up too across the cities was the impact of metro surge and how that's still impacting families today. I won't go into all those details, but it's still a thing that's affecting families, and leverage the current infrastructure that we have in the city and nonprofits to help support. But I just wanted to share that the comp plan update might be our opportunity to really address the housing shortage in the city. And there was a 14-point document by another group that shared things that we could address, things like ADUs, get those passed, expanding and making smaller lot sizes, for example, is another one. So there's a whole host of things that we could do going forward to make housing more affordable and more abundant for Edina residents. The other point I wanted to bring up is that Commissioner Bonnie and I, we connected and we started to work on our work plan item, which is the food truck ordinance study. And so we're collaborating on that, and it's been really fun. And the areas that we're focused on right now is how do we get as much information from key stakeholders that we've identified. One key stakeholder for us would be city staff. So, fire, police, the health department, economic development, what's their experiences with the food truck issue in Edina, and if we could get some data on their experiences doing that. So we're off to the races there. I feel pretty confident that we could just move forward and connect with those leaders. I don't think we need to have Director T kind of jump in and introduce us, but I think we could kind of start doing those interviews and collecting that information. The other part is we certainly would need to interview and discuss. Our other stakeholder groups would be, of course, food truck vendors themselves and also restaurants. And so we have a whole script that we've put together of how to engage and an email to introduce and get questions going. And the one request that I had tonight was if we could get any, maybe some student commissioner volunteers who would like to partner with us and doing some interviews with our restaurateurs or our food truck vendors, just to collect information, their experiences with having food trucks close to your property or their experiences with deploying food trucks within the city and how that's working out. So you don't have to answer tonight. You can certainly find me, and we'd love to rope you guys in. Hopefully we could get this going. We really want to kick things off in April, and hopefully that'll be enough time for us to collect all the information and put some kind of initial review for this team to take a look at. So I don't know, Bonnie, if you wanted to add anything to that at all.
No, just that I think that we, and when I say we, I mean you, developed a really good plan. And I look forward to, working all aspects of it. And we think we should, we're planning on hitting the ground running. So next month. So far, you've done a terrific job, Quincy. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. And yeah, Commissioner Day.
Just real quick, Commissioner Hahnemann, Alkire, and I met today with Addison and talked through some of the results of the online survey for the zoning code. So there was a survey that went out. It was open from November 19th through February 5th. We, looked at that, kind of talked through some of the details there. There was 205 responses, which I thought was a good response rate from the city for an online survey of this sort. Whole host of information there. I won't go into all the different points, but just to say that it was interesting, and then kind of just wanted to highlight something off of what you said, Commissioner Smith, around the comprehensive plan. So that is, as we talk about the zoning update and everything, we did talk about the fact that we can't make zoning changes that would create conflict with our current comprehensive plan before we would adopt a new one. So if we were to create zones, residential zones that created conflict with density requirements per our comprehensive plan, that we can't do that. The Met Council said that's a no-go. You got to have the comprehensive plan kind of first. So just as for everybody's aware of that as we go through the zoning update and stuff like that, and how that pairs with the comprehensive plan. Sorry, but yeah. So more to come. I'm sure we'll share some of those results too as we go through the process.
Can I build on that for a sec? Just one other thing to add to that. We're going to probably be having a work session in about 2 months to start to talk about the work on the zoning project.
Thank you all. Any other comments?
I wasn't going to say anything, but I will. I just came across the gentleman that we saw maybe 8 months ago, for an ADU variance. He's just getting underway under construction, so the permitting process took a little bit longer than I think he had hoped. But it is moving forward, so I don't know if there were issues with getting permits. I'm not exactly sure what the situation was, but just that didn't, once we approved it, I assumed that was, next step was permit, then construction, but it took a significant amount of time to get things rolling. So just update everybody on the fact that it's now under construction. Thank you. That was over on 44th Street, just off of 44th Street, east of the railroad.
Thank you for that. Anything else? I'd just say one big final thank you to Commissioner Bornstein. Job well done.
Thank you.
Enjoy your free evenings with other things now on Wednesdays. And
Yeah, only update from the city council actions would be the Miss Amigos daycare on 50th. That was approved by the city council. That's it? Oh, yeah, sorry. We have a new staff member that I'd like to introduce. Miriam has taken Liz's role, and so we welcome her. She comes to us from the communications department, so very familiar with the city and can navigate a lot of our programs that we have in our department. So welcome.
well, one
Motion
final
to
item.
adjourn.
Yeah, there we go. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So
Aye.
meeting's been adjourned. Thank you, everyone. There we go.